YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today we're ranking every single NFL team's edge rush duo heading into the 2022 season, going from 32 to 1. Really excited about this one. Usually more of a fan of ranking units, which we'll do. We'll do pass rush units, things like that. But I think the edge duo is very important, so I really wanted to cover this one. It's kind of what creates or generates most of your pressure and sacks for each team. Usually, if you're higher up in the edge duo rankings, you got a pretty solid defense, solid team, so it's very important when it comes to winning the big games, maybe winning the Super Bowl. So excited to break this down. A lot of ranking videos on the channel, definitely more to come. We're nearing preseason here. Actually, there's a game tomorrow night, so very excited about that. We'll have you covered. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. That'd be much appreciated. Follow us on Twitter. We have super follows available there as well. A lot going on at Goathouse NFL. Here's our Twitter. Kind of asked you guys what the top edge duo is in your opinion. We got news, rumors, updates on that Twitter, so check it out. So starting at I just made myself disappear. 32 to 25. So the Falcons do come in last there, but maybe they're heading in the right direction with these last couple of draft classes. They had Lorenzo Carter from the Giants, who hasn't really got it together yet, but he was kind of known as a raw prospect coming out of Georgia. Because is he an off-ball guy? Is he an edge guy? He's been an edge guy in the NFL, so it makes sense that he's kind of still trying to get going. And Ebiketie, who they drafted from Penn State, got a lot of upside. He can be, something special, something solid right off the bat. We see what Odafe Away did from Penn State with the Ravens. So maybe one for the future there for the Falcons. The Cardinals coming at 31. Marcus Golden kind of carrying that one. The duo is kind of up in the air. It could be Kennard, who hasn't really. We saw him had one good year with Detroit. Cardinals kind of been hanging on to him. They could go multiple routes there. They can go with Gardeck, who's been decent for them in the rotation. They can go with one of the guys they drafted, Myjai Sanders comes to mind. So they can go a number of routes there. They're kind of banking on Golden having another solid season, which he's kind of been up and down, and they just don't really have a strong option next to him for this season. The Rams, weird seeing the Rams Super Bowl champs and one of the favorites, down here at 30, Leonard Floyd, and not Von Miller anymore. Likely be Terrell Lewis, who had the most snaps out of the rest of the guys to pair at Leonard Floyd, but some of the younger guys can step up. Could a guy like Chris Garrett step up? Lewis has got to stay healthy. I think the talent's in there, but yeah, it's just weird. Most of their pass rush comes from Aaron Donald, just how good Aaron Donald is, but he is not an edge rusher, so he's not included in this video. Texans next, Jonathan Grenard, who actually had a pretty productive year last year. He's a solid young pass rusher. And then kind of up in the air on who will start, and then a little bit up in the air who will start for the other spot. They got a couple Buffalo Bills in there. Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison. I think Hughes is easily the best of the group there. So Grenard and Hughes really isn't a terrible duo, honestly. I think it's pretty balanced where there's not one guy carrying the other guy. So maybe it's a little bit better than where we expected the Texans to be at this point. Maybe some thought they would draft a top tier edge prospect. They didn't do that, but they got some guys in there. And the Ravens, with the young edge duo there with Odafe Away and Tyus Bowser. Away had a pretty good rookie season. That's an upside guy, obviously, with his traits. And then Tyus Bowser, I think, is pretty underrated. He's pretty solid dropping in coverage for an edge guy as well, but he's still growing as a pass rusher. I think he's kind of underrated. Seahawks duo, which I haven't ranked at 27, but I kind of like this duo here, the Seahawks. Darrell Taylor, who I liked out of Tennessee, is really coming along now. Another upside guy. Uchenna Nwosu, who I've been a fan of, is kind of a hybrid edge rusher, could drop in coverage, constantly get his hands on the ball, deflected passes, and he's got some upside as well. So I think this is a good young duo for the future here. Like, even though I ranked at 27, I like this one. It could be sneaky. Chiefs, what with Frank Clark and George Karlaftis? It could be Clark and Dunlap, who they signed. That was a great signing. Could it be? I see Clark starting. I say it could be Karlaftis and Dunlap at some point, but I wanted Clark and Karlaftis there. Excited to see Karlaftis with that Chiefs defense. So I think I got a pretty good trio when it comes to duo. There's not a lot of consistency there. Frank Clark kind of been going downhill. How much are we going to get from Karlaftis right away? Giants at 25. This is another one I'm excited about. This is one for the future. Kayvon Thibodeau, who's my number one player in the draft. The Giants landed Azeez Ojulari, who I liked out of Georgia last year, and he had somewhat of a solid rookie season. So this is one for the future for sure. This one can continue to grow here, so that's a sneaky one as well. Lions at 24. We got Aiden Hutchinson, who should be a productive rookie, and Romeo Okwara, which this could be Charles Harris, who kind of came out of nowhere last year. I still think Okwara is better. Julian Okwara is an option as well. I think most likely the starters most snaps, Hudson Okwara, which is a sneaky one as well. Okwara stays healthy and Hudson plays like that top prospect that he's supposed to be. Again, it could be sneaky. And then Matt Judon and Josh Uche. Expecting more out of Uche. Could somebody else take over? Ronnie Perkins, who I liked out of Oklahoma. It's kind of Judon carrying the group. Judon still up in the air on how he is going to be, honestly. He's a very good pass rusher, but early last year looked like a defensive player of the year. They kind of came back down to earth at the end of the year, so it's a tough one there. I think Judon carries that group a little too much. The Jets, Carl Lawson and Jermaine Johnson, which is another one of those where I rank it 22, but I feel pretty good about it. It's a sneaky one, a young, good duo for the future, one for the future there. They also have John Franklin Myers, who kind of plays that Armstead role for Salah, where it's sometimes off the edge, sometimes on the inside. View Lawson and Johnson as their guys. Cowboys are tricky to rank because some people would put Micah Parsons in here with DeMarcus Lawrence, which would rank them a lot higher, way higher. But Parsons did play most of his snaps at linebacker last year, so it's tough to rank him with both or just with the edge rushers, and he very well could play more off the edge because they're maybe needing him to this year. But more so considered a linebacker. And again, keep in mind, if we consider Parsons an edge, Lawrence and Parsons I'd rank a lot higher. But it's likely DeMarcus Lawrence and Dante Fowler as the starting edge group. Lawrence needs to stay healthy. Fowler needs to kind of get back on track there. So Cowboys are a little tricky to rank. Colts, Yannick Ngakoue, who's really bounced around teams right now, but I do like his pass rush ability. And Kwity Paye, second-year guy, hopefully he takes that next step, a little more productive, hopefully this year. So maybe more consistency from Ngakoue. Paye steps up, but one with potential here, the pass rush duo of the Colts. Panthers next. It's another one of those that kind of gets carried by one guy, and the Panthers were in on Carlos Dunlap. They would have got a big boost from 19 if they got Carlos Dunlap. Gross Matos there from Penn State a few years ago, kind of waiting for him to take off a little bit. Now he's kind of got that starting role unless they pick somebody up. Burns is a stud. I love Burns. He really carries this group, though, and kind of keeps it from going down in the 20s, but I wish they had more of a balanced duo. The Bears, Robert Quinn, who had a monster season last year, who's a little inconsistent. Great season, then bad season, great season, so where's he going to be this year? But a stud of a pass rusher. And then one with Al-Quadin Muhammad as the other starter. It could be Gibson, who kind of took off a little bit last year, but Eberflus makes sure he gets his guy Muhammad from the Colts. I think he'll see a little bit more snaps, so that was the duo I went with there. So maybe Quinn carries that one a little bit. As well, kind of like the Panthers, kind of getting held up, and I had Burns ranked higher than Quinn. I think Muhammad, or if it's Gibson, I feel better about that second guy than maybe the Panthers second guy, but they're kind of in the same boat, why I'm kind of comparing them. Jags at 17, which I like this one as well. It's a sneaky one. Josh Allen's really kind of getting going here. We saw that last year. Very young, talented young pass rusher. And Trayvon Walker, who I'm a fan of, he's going to be a beast. Sometimes we'll see him off the edge. Sometimes we'll see him inside, so that's a little tough. Sometimes we might see, Devin Lloyd's going to start at linebacker. Might see him off the edge too. So I'm actually excited about the Jags defense, where they're going. It's going to be very creative. But Allen and Walker, two different style of pass rushers. I think they complement each other very well. Excited to watch that. That's one for the future as well. This one could be, it wouldn't surprise me if this was like the best one in football in a few years. Like, it really wouldn't surprise me. So excited about that with the Jaguars. Let's get on to the top 16. We got some good ones even down here in the middle of the rankings. The Eagles, I like their, when we do the pass rush unit rankings, the Eagles might be a lot higher up because they got defensive linemen. They got more edge rushers as well. You factor in Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat, which you can consider either of those guys here in the starting group. Hassan Reddick, maybe you consider with the linebackers. We know he's going to play a little bit of both edge and linebacker. We've seen it in training camp. He's playing a little bit of both. For me, I think he's a better edge rusher. He was kind of known as a bust when he was playing linebacker. I always had him as an edge guy, projected as an edge guy, so I do think he's best suited rushing off the edge most of the time. Brandon Graham's coming back from injury, who's still got something definitely left in the tank. Maybe he's declined a little bit, since he's somewhat up there in age, and he had the injury, but it's a pretty good duo. Eagles thing is more of a great unit. They have that crazy unit. So I'm looking forward to watching that in their rotation. Dolphins next, Jalen Phillips, who was very high on out of Miami, and I was really excited to see him play well last year. He's going to continue to get better. He's a stud. And Emmanuel Ogbah, who they do, he isn't always an edge rusher. Sometimes you see him kind of line up over the tackle, which you would consider, more of a 3-4, and the Dolphins' multiple defense kind of makes it unique, and there. So they did bring in Melvin Ingram, which I like. So you could consider Phillips and Ingram here, but I think they're two best guys here getting after the quarterback most time off the edge. Definitely Phillips and Ugba. Top 15 one here. Maybe another one for the future, because I think Phillips can be. I really think he can become an elite pass rusher. Probably won't happen this year, but once they get to that point, it's going to really boost. That group here. Broncos at 14 here, just about staying healthy, mainly with Bradley Chubb. He's got all the potential in the world. Again, he's just got to stay healthy. And Randy Gregory, we haven't seen get, a whole lot of games and snaps over the last few years, but he's kind of heading in that direction where he could. So the idea of the Broncos edge duo here is special. But do we get the full them? Do we get all of them there? Commanders at 13, Chase Young and Montez Sweat, two young studs that need to step up a little bit at the same time. Like, these guys could be so good. This is another one of those ones where I can see in a few years, if they're still together, maybe the number one in football. But Chase Young, he's been fine stopping a run. Would like for him to get after quarterback a little bit better. He was injured last year. And Montez Sweat would like to be a little more consistent as well. But a lot of upside with this one in the Commanders. Next up, Buccaneers at 12, Shaq Barrett, who's an absolute stud, and Joe Tryon, who I think takes that leap this year, the second-year pass rusher from Washington. So I'm very, very excited about this duo here this year. So, again, kind of factoring that Tryon steps up here a little bit this year, which you saw some flashes last year. Packers at 11, Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith, which is a very solid one. Preston Smith's been a little, in that first year, the Smith bros, they really tore it up. And then after that, Preston Smith kind of came downhill a little bit, but still very solid. Gary kind of came out of nowhere last year. Does he continue off that? Does he get in that double-digit sacks? This one has potential as well, as long as Smith kind of goes back to where Preston Smith goes back to where he was playing a couple years ago, and Gary takes another leap, another step. I mean, then we're talking about the Packers well into maybe the top 5, easily in the top 5. So it's kind of just riding on that a little bit. But they come in at 11. 49ers, which is tough because it's kind of being carried a little bit by Nick Bosa, who's an elite talent. So that helps to get into the top 10 when you have an elite talent, obviously. And it's tough to exactly predict. Well, not really that tough, but who will get the most snaps opposite of Bosa, because they have Samson Ebukam, who they had last year. They draft Drake Jackson, which I like the upside there from him. I think he maybe takes over at some point opposite of Bosa, because he's kind of that, the 49ers run their Leo defense. They got a defensive end and Bosa on one side, and they got kind of like that guy that likes to stand up a little bit on the opposite side, which is Ebukam, and Drake Jackson could potentially do that. They did bring Kerry Hyder back, and he was very productive last time we saw him for the 49ers, but he was kind of taking over that Bosa defensive end role because he was injured. So it feels like Hyder is more of Bosa's backup. You can get them both in at the same time. Probably not starting with both. I think week 1 we see these two guys. It is Bosa carrying the group a little bit, but they have numbers. They have extra guys in there that can play. Bengals at 9, which this group looked very solid last year, and Trey Hendrickson, who went off, and Sam Hubbard. Hubbard maybe a little better stopping the run than he is getting after the quarterback, but he was very solid getting after the quarterback last year. And Hendrickson, again, racked up those sacks for sure. And now you get a guy like Joseph Asai back in the mix here. They drafted last year, unfortunately got hurt, so excited to watch that. And these guys, crazy. These guys can continue to get better, too. Hendrickson's kind of just getting going. I thought Hubbard played his best season last year, so could they even take a next step up and be even better and, rank better than 9? That's definitely possible in my mind. I could see that scenario. Top 8, going to go Bills at 8. Von Miller, they get the stud there from the Rams, who we know is a very solid pass rusher. And then I like the idea of Gregory Rousseau taking that next step up, too. I saw some flashes last year. A lot of upside. Will continue to grow. Now, playing with Von Miller, I like the idea of that a lot. And they have a couple other guys in there, young guys that could step up as well, but I really like this duo here. Saints at 7, more of the balanced type here. I like it. Even though Cam Jordan's the better one, but Cam Jordan's still going strong. And Marcus Davenport, see him kind of staying more healthy and kind of breaking out last year as well. So that's a strong duo there, the Saints. And they have Peyton Turner, who could step up as well. And the Titans at 6, Harold Landry, who really stepping up, getting after the quarterback pretty consistently, especially last year, so we can expect the same thing from him. I like Bud Dupree. I think I'm higher on Bud Dupree than most people. He's a guy that kind of lines up everywhere and creates, helps his teammates feast. Guys like Harold Landry, see other guys kind of taking off, getting after quarterback. I think big pieces, Bud Dupree being in there. Got to stay healthy though, but that's a very balanced, well kind of complement each other, type of pass rush there. You kind of get a bit of everything from that. So I like that Titans one a lot. Steelers one is getting carried by a little bit, even though Alex Highsmith is solid and kind of ready to break out a little bit further and solid enough to keep the Steelers in the top 5, but it is kind of getting carried just because T.J. Watt arguably is the best in football there. So when you have the best, or I guess it's debatable if you want to call him top 2. I had him ranked 1, but then you still have that elite top tier talent with a solid player in Highsmith, which gets them to number 5. I do, in an exercise like this, I do like the more balanced with some great guys duo. The best, it feels a little better, but it's still a great duo. A lot of pass rush productivity there from the Steelers. On the top 4, I had the Browns at 4, which Myles Garrett's up there with T.J. Watt, the best of the very best, elite pass rusher. So that kind of, in a way, it kind of feels like he carries this group as well, but he has a very good pass rusher in Jadeveon Clowney with him as well. So that definitely gets you in the top 4 with that stud pass rush duo. I got the Raiders at 3 with Max Crosby and Chandler Jones. Crosby's really kind of getting going, very good stopping the run, very good at getting pressure. I want him to kind of finish. I want him to turn those pressures into sacks, which I think he's kind of on the brink of doing. So I do it to nitpick. I want to see that. Chandler Jones, who's been a very consistent pass rusher, obviously. He started last year like he was going to be the defensive player of the year, and then kind of went downhill as the season went on, even though still very good. It just wasn't that defensive player of the year. So new team, which Chandler Jones we're going to get. I think a very solid one, I think it's safe to say. So I got the Raiders at 3. Excited to watch this duo together. I got the Vikings at 2. Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith. They add Zadarius. It's almost like they got a new duo because Hunter coming back from injury. That's the problem, though, the injury concern with these two guys, because both hurt last year. Hunter, 2 different injuries the last 2 years. If it was the same, I'd be a little bit more concerned. But Hunter, has been extremely productive, especially for his age. Looked like he was on the way to be possibly battling for that sack title. Pretty tough at Watt last year before getting injured. Zadarius Smith, who I've been a big fan of because he's one of those guys that lines up everywhere, creates for his teammates, but kind of has that rare ability to also get production. Usually those guys kind of set up other guys for success, but Zadarius Smith himself has been doing that, plus getting the very good production at the same time. So I'm very excited about Hunter and Smith. They just got to stay healthy there. If they stay healthy, I mean, it's not, they stay healthy the full year, they might be 1. It's just maybe a little bit of worry there. Chargers at 1, though, for me. Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Mack got to stay healthy. And Bosa actually can continue to grow as well. I like the way that they moved him around a little bit at the end of the season. Sometimes they line him at a 3-4 end spot, but mainly playing off the edge, getting after the quarterback. And then Mack, we know he can do his thing. We know what he can do. He just got to stay healthy there. But a little bit more motivation here with the Chargers and what is potentially a contender. So, I didn't really have to think too much there. Bosa and Mack at number 1. So those are my edge duos. We can do more duos. I'm usually only in certain positions like this, a fan of the duos, cornerback maybe, safety. But we're definitely going to do some units too, like pass rush units together, secondaries, receiving corps, and then maybe linebacker units, things like that. And then we're cutting it close. Going to rank all the offenses, all the defenses, 32-1 for both those. And then it's pretty much season time, So excited about what's to come. Kind of a busy time of the year, a lot going on. So it's definitely exciting for that reason. So join us here on the channel. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss any of this action that we got. Follow us on Twitter, @GoToUsNFL, because we got you covered all times of the day on there. So check us out there. Link down below for anything you're looking for. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.